In the words of Cam Coleman, his name is Young Malcolm.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Every Monday, we're joined by the Lindsay Crosby of AuburnDaily.com, the Bar in Auburn, as well as a million other places. It's truly insane. Lindsay, we're going to talk about what's next this fall camp for the Auburn Tigers, as well as, hey, we love to say it on the show, two things can be true at once. I think there's kind of an interesting take on that. But, I mean, let's start with it. Malcolm Simmons stole the show at Auburn Scrimmage this past Saturday, Lindsay. When you talk about all of these true freshmen, Cam Coleman steals all of spring. Perry Thompson has had all the attention for the first 2 weeks of fall camp. And then Malcolm Simmons goes 5 of 133 for 2 touchdowns. What a performance in Auburn Scrimmage this fall.
Yeah, it was very clear that he is incredibly explosive. And like that wasn't a secret, right? He was a state champion in 6A in the high jump and the long jump as a junior, right? Like he's incredibly explosive, but like you said, it kind of got overshadowed by Perry Thompson, by Cam Coleman, by some of these other guys, but he's going to be a problem. I mean, the ability to go and just make plays all over the field, and it really looked like just the ability to go get balls. You know, and the catch radius looks like it's massive. And then obviously he combines the ability to get a ball with that second gear to just take away from people. And I don't think I quite maybe appreciated the speed that he has, but it felt like he was one of the faster players on the field, as well as one of the more explosive. Well, not the biggest, but plays like he's huge. And I think that's a big thing that Auburn hasn't really had that dimension from their wide receivers in recent years. Guys who played like they were large and were a matchup problem for opposing cornerbacks. I feel like Malcolm Simmons can be that guy if you need him to be.
Yeah, and I've been pretty consistent on questioning, like, can Malcolm Simmons make an impact as a true freshman? You know, a freshman that didn't go through spring. And I'm still kind of on the fence on that. I still have my questions, but obviously Saturday's performance makes me certainly reevaluate and rethink that stance. The thing, like, obviously production is one thing. 5 for 133, multiple scores. Mm-hmm. That is obviously an important part of this. But also, like, Auburn was moving them around in the formation. Like, it seemed intentional. It seemed like they went into Saturday scrimmage saying, let's get Malcolm some targets and see what happens. And if that was the case, if it was a test, you got to think he passed it, Lindsay.
It feels like that was intentional. And if you look at the situation you're dealing with right now, Lambert Smith did not play with that little minor injury. We don't expect it to linger into the season or anything. But you've got, Lewis can play on the outside. He did on Saturday. He can play in the slot if you need him to. It feels like, hey, this kid missed spring. We know he's very talented. He's got that natural it factor. Let's give a lot of different looks and figure out where do we think he could immediately step in and help us if we need him to. Yeah. And I feel like, not only for different positions, but different types of plays. He went up and, he high pointed a ball in the end zone. He caught one at the sideline, a lot of different situations. He made the plays as well. And so, wasn't perfect. Hugh Freeze had to talk to him a couple times about some route running things, but to be expected from a brand new player to college. He's one of those guys that gives you versatility. If somebody is out, he's your depth that can step up, and you probably feel like you can play him almost anywhere at this point.
Yeah, he's got that size that he's listed at 6 foot 179 on Auburn's website. So that gives you some size where you could be kind of the shiftier outside option, which is kind of what they anticipate Keandre Lambert Smith being, opposite of Cam Coleman. Or, I think he also has that ability, the skill set to move inside. And we saw him kind of be moved all over the place on Saturday, which once again, may have been part of the test that the coaching staff gave him on Saturday in the scrimmage. But yeah, stats aren't everything, right? And I don't want to take anything away from Malcolm's impressive day, but the interception that was thrown, he was targeted, and the coaching staff didn't hold that against the quarterback. The quarterback threw the right route. It was the route that wasn't ran correctly, and so he was a targeted receiver there. But this is a guy he's been practicing college football for like 2 weeks. I mean, this isn't a normal situation that we're talking about here. So obviously everything that they did for Malcolm to kind of push him, for the most part, he excelled, which is obviously super, super exciting. I can't wait to see what the rotation looks like going into the season versus where it is in November, because Malcolm may not be part of the main conversation of the offense when it comes to target share in September. But come November, he might be. Some of that might just be because of, the bumps and bruises of the season. Auburn's receiving room has been plagued with injury for the last few years, it seems like.
Yeah.
And so he'll get an opportunity sooner than maybe an ideal situation. But also, if he does what he did on Saturday and just continues to be productive, the coaching staff can't keep him off the field.
Yeah, this feels like I'm going to go ahead and say it, like a depth will work itself out situation, right? You've got playmakers that you can put any different spot, and he may not have a big load now. Like you said, if somebody gets nicked up, maybe Lambert Smith has a recurrence of this ankle thing. Maybe Robert Lewis gets banged up a little bit. Just throwing things out. Something's going to happen because it is a physical job. The only more physical job than being the only thing that subjects you to bigger hits than being a wide receiver in the SEC is being a running back in the SEC, right?
Sure.
So something's going to happen. And I feel like between now and then, you're going to have time to clean up some of the route running stuff, which again is to be expected from a young receiver who missed spring.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that he missed spring, they decided to feature him in the offense, and he produced like he did against a defense we think is going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Has to make you feel good about the depth if something happens to somebody, as well as the ability, if you have to make a play, you feel like there's a couple quarterbacks who have learned they can make a play by throwing to him if they have to. With blitz coming, like if you read some of the recaps from Charlie 5 on the Barn, he's talking about, pass was coming in. He was, the quick shot over to him, deep ball, sideline passes. They went to him early and often. And it feels like you're going to build that chemistry with everybody. It's going to help you down the road.
Yeah. I want to talk about the quarterbacks and the rushing attack, because I think it's interesting. And it's the first scrimmage of fall. Like, there's going to be plenty of movement, but I think there were some takeaways from this. Let's jump into that in just a moment right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. Lindsay, can you imagine? Can you imagine buying a part for your car, truck, or SUV anywhere other than at ebaymotors.com?
I don't know why you would. I can't imagine buying it somewhere else and hoping it fits when eBay has the guaranteed fit.
The guaranteed fit. Your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. They've got 122 million parts. You would think that'd be a little intimidating, but it's not, because you add your car to your profile at eBay Motors, and then you just got like a little green check mark next to everything. It's guaranteed to fit. And if it doesn't, they will refund you all of the price. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. When you look at the rushing attack, I mean, it kind of seemed like a similar thing that we saw from the rushing attack, Lindsay, at A-Day, where it's like, all right, we're really hyping up this running game, and they never really got it going at A-Day. And they never really got it going on Saturday. Jarquez went 7 for 21. Jeremiah Cobb went 2 for 13 with a rushing touchdown. Sean Jackson went 6 for 24. He led rushers. Damari also went 3 for 7. And then Justin Jones, the newly scholarship player, went for a minus 2 yards on 2 carries. So the running attack didn't get going, but to me, I just don't see a world where like we need to be concerned about the rushing attack. To me, I think the staff knows what they've got when it comes to being able to run the football. And every time they go into a scrimmage or an 8-day game, which is just a glorified practice, we all know this at this point. I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned about the rushing attack despite the lack of production there.
Yeah, kind of looking at some of the stats and having seen what we saw of the scrimmage, I think the big two takeaways I have that also make me not worry about the running game is, one, you really didn't see Auburn break out the RPOs. And not only that, but also the quarterback options where Peyton Thorne could keep it and run. That was a surprisingly big part of his game down the stretch last year. You didn't see Auburn breaking those out in practice because it wasn't a lot of the segments weren't full tackle. It was thud rules. So kind of understand that. And then two, you did see Auburn when they had to get a yard. I remember 4th and 1 to Jarquez Hunter that they converted. I remember Peyton Thorne scrambling on like a 3rd and 7 where he got the first down. It was called back on penalty. And so when Auburn needed to run, they were able to convert those runs successfully. So it feels like it was more, we are worried, like we're not worried. We want to make sure and test these guys in the passing game because the floor is going to be what the run game can give you. The ceiling is going to be what can this passing game do in 2024 because you haven't really had a passing game that could threaten teams late in games when you were behind and you had to come back and score. And I feel like ultimately the ceiling of this offense is going to depend on what can Peyton Thorne do through the air, not what can he and Jarquez Hunter do on the ground. So I'm comfortable given your history of running the ball. You're going to be able to run the ball when you need to. I'm more concerned right now, can you pass the ball well enough for us to go out there and upset an Oklahoma, upset a Texas A&M, teams like that?
Yeah. The passing stats on Saturday, Peyton Thorne went 13 for 20 for 100 yards and a touchdown. Holden Geriner was 4 for 5 for 128 and 2 touchdowns. Walker White went 9 for 21. Walker played a ton for 85 yards. And Walker was the quarterback during the live period, which tells me he's down the depth chart. So like, I don't think you should look into this where him getting more snaps necessarily means he's like having a chance to like move up in the depth chart. I think this is more of a, hey, we need to go live for a session and you're the guy in there. And then Hank went 5 for 6 for 95 yards and interception. And we talked about that interception in the first segment there. So I
do want to point out Holden 4-5, 128 and 2 touchdowns. 71 of those was a catch and run from Malcolm Simmons. So it's not, there is some, and that was, I think, third team on third team when that happened. So kind of full context behind that.
Yeah. Great point. But still, like Malcolm Simmons making you going back to that speed. That's just, I mean, it was all about Malcolm Simmons on Saturday. Like 100%. Last time we saw a dominating performance like this was in a fall scrimmage. I mean, it was, I'm blanking on his name. It was Shane Hooks last year. And I just bit. I'm like, yeah, he's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. He's going to be the guy. I did a full show on how he's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver.
But you may have done it
with me. I don't know. But
one of the most recurring bits I've seen already on the barn is people are like, oh, is this the Shane Hooks breakout? And it's like, oh, man, Zach's never going to live that down.
Yeah, I mean, I deserve to wear that one for a while for sure. But this does feel different. It feels different, but he's still like, if Malcolm Simmons, if he has a larger role than we all kind of thought, I'm saying the collective we, obviously there were some people that thought he would do more, but the average person that talks about these things in the offseason, like, who's he taking snaps from is my question. Because if Malcolm Simmons is going to be capable of this and he's worthy of, what some of these people are saying on Twitter and message boards of like Malcolm Simmons is going to be a key part of the offense, who's he taking the market share from? Because like, I can't see him being more involved in the offense than KLS. I can't see him being more involved in the offense than Cam Coleman. I can't see him being more involved in the offense than Robert Lewis or Rivaldo Fairweather. After that, I think you've got a few arguments for sure. My gut says Perry will be more involved this year. I'm talking strictly this year.
Right.
Than Malcolm, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe not. But after that, it's like, okay, if he's the fifth option, it's like, what is that like? What kind of stat line does that look like? Is that 20 catches, 30 catches? Does Auburn's fifth receiver get 30 catches or 20 catches? That'd be insane.
I feel like the person he gets the snaps from, to kind of back up for a second, I feel like that's probably Sam Jackson. Looking at a guy converting to wide receiver from quarterback. It's been a minute since he played it. In essence, they're kind of starting from the same place as far as you got to learn the playbook. You got to go out there and make plays. They were co-starters in the slot in that first drive, the very beginning of the game on the first team with KLS out. As far as the stat line, I mean, if Auburn's fifth receiving option has 30 catches, then that's a really good year for Auburn football.
I'm with you.
I mean, it's hard to believe that you're going to be disappointed with the stats if your fifth receiving option makes 30 catches. Now, and I'm trying to, and I'm frustratingly not able to pull up the stats from last year while I'm saying this. I was trying to do
I got it.
Two things at once, but just doesn't feel like 30 catches from your fifth guy is going to be a bad thing. It'd be a great problem to have. So Auburn's leading receiver was Rivaldo last year. He had 38 catches. Yep.
Jay Fair was second, had 31. Javaris Johnson had 19. And then your running back, Jarquez Hunter, had 18. And so, I mean, if we just upgraded from, 16, 18 range, Caleb Green had 16. So like that big of I'm just asking the question of like all these folks that are saying I was wrong about Simmons. I'm genuinely asking the question of like, what are we expecting here? Because I think we're having different conversations, which is fine. I want Malcolm Simmons to come in and be great. Boy, what an awesome situation that would be where he's so good. You have to take snaps away from somebody that we've already kind of praised. Like, is he going to come in and take snaps away from Robert Lewis? I don't think so. But if he did, man, he's got to be good. Like, he's got to be really, really good, which is awesome. That'd be awesome for Auburn. But like, if we're talking about like what the fifth or the sixth receiving option is for Auburn this year, it's part of the offense, 100%. It's 100% part of the offense. But is it? I don't know. Like, I just feel like people are having different conversations here, and I just wanted to kind of bring that up today.
I do think if there's an injury, then it's obviously a little bit different, right? Like if one of these guys gets hurt, then it kind of makes sense that he steps in and ends up being your fifth guy. But yeah, no, if he's taking snaps away from somebody, I think it's nothing but a good thing, because it means that either somebody ahead of him on the depth chart is struggling and is not picking up the playbook or having the chemistry with Peyton Thorne that he needs to, or Malcolm Simmons is just that gosh darn good where we have to find a way to get him on the field. Either way, Auburn wins. Because last year, when you have guys who didn't know the playbook that well or didn't run the right routes and things like that, you didn't have a high ceiling option behind them to go to. You just had to keep running them out there, hoping they would fix it, and they didn't.
No, you're totally right. I mean, last year they ran into a situation where like, all right, well, Jair Shorter didn't pan out. All right, Nick Marner didn't pan out. All right, Shane Hooks didn't pan out. Who can we go to? Malcolm Simmons didn't work out.
We put Rivaldo Fairweather out wide.
Yeah, they moved Rivaldo around. I don't know what my hair is doing. I have no clue. So sorry, everyone.
It is so excited.
Like Jay Fair worked out. Coy Moore, like they couldn't find a spot. And so it's like this year, though, if those transfers don't work out, which I do not think will happen, but just saying like hypothetically, like if Robert Lewis and KLS somehow don't work out, you're like, all right, well,
we got a bunch of 5 stars behind him.
Yeah. You've got a Bryce Kane. You've got, obviously Cam and Perry, I think are expected to be probably a larger role this season. Sam Jackson, Camden Brown. It's a great situation to be in.
You've got a great situation to be in.
It's so different. Yeah. You've got tight ends that you can trust in the passing game as well. So I'm very excited for Malcolm Simmons, both happy for him because I'm sure there's some added pressure of him missing spring, but also, just the fact of the matter of like, I still think regardless of what happened Saturday, he's the 5th or the 6th best option in this passing attack, which, wow. What a great thing for the Auburn Tigers to have him be a key part of your depth. And then you think about the future of like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen when we lose a KLS and a Robert Lewis and maybe Camden Brown, depending on, whatever happens. I think he's got another year after this year, so never mind on that. But still, it's exciting. It's an exciting thing nonetheless. But I want to go ahead.
Is this what hope feels like? Like hope for the future?
Yes, I'm ready to get hurt again. 100%. 100%. Let's go. So, but we say it all the time on this show, you and Daryl especially. Two things can be true at once with this wide receiver room. And I want to jump into that in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel's America's #1 sportsbook. Lindsay, just a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine wagering anywhere other than our friends at FanDuel?
Why would I do it? It's the best lines in the world. I love it.
Yeah. It's America's #1 sports book for a reason. You know how many sports books there are? There's a lot.
Oh, a lot. You ever watch sports on TV? There's a lot.
Yeah. One opens every day. It's insane. But FanDuel, out of all the sports books, FanDuel's #1. It's America's #1 sports book. This summer, FanDuel's hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball and the Locked On Podcast Network. Two things can be true at once. Thank you for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every day. For your second listen later, after the show is done, you can either make Locked On Auburn your second listen, which will come out later today, or you can check out Locked On SEC with Chris Gordy or Locked On College Football with our good friend Spencer McLaughlin. Both great shows. Two things can be true at once. One, being Auburn's receiving core is so far ahead of where they have been at this point of the season for the last several years. Also, they can still have a very long way to go before the season starts. I think both of those things can be true at the same time. I mean, we've already talked about Cam Coleman and Perry Thompson, but like Malcolm Simmons and Bryce Kane, like they both had great days. We haven't mentioned Bryce's day. Bryce Kane went 4 for 83 with a touchdown. Bryce had a very good day as well, but it still sounds like they're freshmen. Just talking to folks within the program, like they're still freshmen. And we're still talking about, Keandre Lambert-Smith, a guy who is limited because of his ankle and has, he hasn't been here very long. We got here in the summer. And so to me, like there's still a ways to go, but the fact that Auburn's at this point versus where they were a year ago is very, very encouraging. And I think we just need to kind of be cautious with this. I think Auburn's going to have a much better offense than a year ago. I'm just telling people to hold on. They're not done yet.
Watching on Saturday, it feels like a lot of what they're able to do is knowing enough of the playbook combined with just being amazing athletes. And I think the issue from this year, last year you didn't have that amazing athlete part. Like there were guys who could do good stuff.
Sure.
Right? Guys who were excelled at a specific thing. But Bryce Kane just flying past defensive backs. Like his speed out of the slot was legitimately a problem for Auburn's defenders to handle. First team, second team, all that. Like just these guys have that base of just amazing athleticism to fall back on. And it's good enough right now to get by and to make plays. But as they learn the playbook, as they understand the tendencies of maybe how Peyton Thorne likes to deliver the ball or when in the route he likes to pull the trigger, when they understand better about what the play is designed to do as a whole versus just their assignment and all of that, it feels like you're going to be able to unlock another level of not only production, but kind of almost dominance because they're such good athletes in a really good scheme with full understanding of it. Eventually, the question is, how long does it take to get there? But that's the difference in this year and last year is you didn't have Nick Mardner, nice person, not an exceptionally amazing elite athlete. He's very, very talented. Not on the same caliber as somebody like a Cam Coleman, like a Perry Thompson.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before when we see those guys. It's like, that guy's different. Like, we didn't say that for anybody a year ago, which is, I mean, it's part of it. I mean, if you're going to compete in this conference, you need to have guys that other teams don't have. And like other teams had Nick Mardners and Jair Shorters and Javaris Johnsons and Jay Fairs. Other teams don't have Cam Colemans. Other teams don't have what Malcolm Simmons could be. Like what we've kind of learned more about Malcolm Simmons over the weekend. Bryce Kane, Perry Thompson. And so Rivaldo Fairweather, I think I'd put him in there. So yeah, there's obviously a lot of excitement around this offense. And
you would put Fairweather in there. The SEC coaches, when they voted, didn't put Fairweather in there.
Great point.
Yes. Also want to point out Bryce Kane as a return man, I think could legitimately be a problem for opposing special teams units.
He's got everything you want in a returner. Everything.
He's speedy, he's shifty.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we don't know what the vision looks like yet. We just don't know. It seems to be fine. But we haven't seen it. But we're really nitpicking at that point, you know.
Yeah.
Experience, I guess, would be the main thing. Which I don't love freshman returners and kick returners or punt returners just because it's so important. But I mean, if you got
as long as you catch the ball, I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen what happens when you can't do that. But I mean, just to get these guys on the field, like they deserve it. They deserve it. And the slot receiver is so loaded right now where like the path to playing time for Bryce is tough right now. And so like with Robert Lewis and we'll see, you know, how many snaps Sam Jackson has, and especially if Malcolm Simmons is going to be able to play kind of inside and outside. It's just a tricky spot. It's a tricky spot for Bryce. It becomes very clear next year, but this year that it is a little tricky, that path to playing time. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I mean, this was before the scrimmage. I had a conversation with somebody within the program Thursday night and then somebody else Friday. And the thing that they just say over and over and over again is we're a different team. Like we are a different team than a year ago. It's like I'm looking around and I'm thinking back to where we were at this time a year ago, and it's just different. And that's exciting.
Quite literally built different.
Yeah, they're built different. That's right. That's right. Lindsay, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
I'm on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. You can find the Auburn stuff, auburndaily.com, and the Barn Auburn message board. You can find the Atlanta Braves stuff, bravestoday.com. And if you're an MLB fan, go subscribe to First Pitch wherever you get your podcast. Monday through Friday, recaps of all of the previous day's MLB action.
Yep, that's where I get all of my MLB audio goodness. Be sure to check that out. Yeah, Lindsay said it, thebarnauburn.com. Go check that out and sign up, and we'll see you next time. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you. This has been Locked On Auburn.